All right, today we are pulling back the golden curtain on one of history's most powerful figures, the Egyptian pharaoh. We're going to uncover the hidden pressures and, believe me, the heavy burdens that came with wearing that crown.
I mean, just think about it for a second. You've got absolute power, these massive palaces, a name that's supposed to echo through eternity. On the surface, the life of a pharaoh seems like an absolute dream, right? But was it really? Because what if I told you that when you look closer, that dream life starts to look a whole lot more like a prison? A gilded cage, sure, but one filled with immense pressure, constant fear, and total crushing isolation. Okay, let's really get into this.
Yeah, check this out. This really lays it all out, doesn't it? The myth promises unimaginable power, but the reality? It delivered just crushing pressure. Those grand palaces we imagine were often filled with fear. And that quest for an eternal name, it usually meant a life of profound loneliness. So let's start with what was probably the heaviest burden of all, the divine responsibility. See, this wasn't just about being a king. Oh no, it was about being a god on earth. In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh was seen as this crucial link between the heavens and the earth. Their actions, their health, their very perfection was believed to directly maintain the balance of the entire universe. It's this concept called ma'at. And that belief, it came with a terrifying weight. I mean, from the moment they took the throne, their life just wasn't their own anymore. Any failure wasn't just personal, it was cosmic. The stakes couldn't be higher. And just look at what people thought would happen. If the pharaoh showed any weakness, the lifeblood of Egypt, the Nile River, could stop flooding. Crops would fail. Famine and disaster would strike. The whole kingdom would fall apart. Can you imagine carrying that kind of pressure every single day? So what does that mean? It means a pharaoh had to be this perfect pillar of strength and flawlessness at all times. No bad days allowed. Even if, behind the scenes, everything was falling apart. That's a truly impossible standard for any human being. Okay, so if being a god wasn't hard enough, let's move on to the political burden. Because, ruling a massive kingdom came with its own set of dangers, both outside the palace walls and maybe even more so within them. I mean, you look at this and you see it was just a constant barrage of challenges. A pharaoh had to be a general, a politician, and a crisis manager, all rolled into one. And if a drought hit or a rebellion started, who do you think got the blame? Yep, the pharaoh. But you know what's crazy? The threats from the outside were often way less dangerous than the threats from within. You could be surrounded by thousands of people, courtiers, advisors, family, and yet be completely, utterly alone in your own paranoia. Betrayal was like this constant hum in the background of palace life. History is just filled with these plots and conspiracies. You've got advisors scheming, guards who could be bought, even spouses and your own children could be your biggest rivals. Trust was a luxury a pharaoh could almost never afford. And on top of all that, there was this immense pressure to basically cheat death itself, what we're calling the burden of legacy. A pharaoh's work wasn't just for their lifetime, no, it was for eternity. This obsession is the entire reason we have the incredible monuments we see today. The pyramids, the temples, the giant statues, they were all part of this desperate, massive effort to make sure their name and their soul would live on forever. To fail at this was to be literally erased from history. It's wild when you think about it. Their entire reign was, in so many ways, one long preparation for death. From day one, they were planning their tomb, their journey to the afterlife. Just imagine spending your life constantly focused on your own demise. But maybe the most crushing burden of all was the personal one. This constant internal struggle between the divine symbol the pharaoh had to be and the human being they actually were. As a god, a pharaoh was supposed to be perfect, all-powerful, immortal. But as a man, they got sick, they suffered injuries, and we know from their remains that many of them had genetic issues from all the inbreeding. Any sign of this very human weakness had to be hidden because a god can't be seen as frail. And this quote really just sums it all up, doesn't it? A pharaoh's individual identity was completely sacrificed for the role. Every action, every word was controlled and judged. They couldn't just be a person. They had to be an internal, unchanging symbol for their people. So let's bring it all together.
When we think of a pharaoh, this is what we see, right? Unmatched power, unbelievable wealth, the status of a living god.
They truly had everything a person could possibly want. But for all that power, they lacked the one thing that kind of defines the human experience: freedom. The freedom to be weak, the freedom to have a private moment, to trust someone, to love without suspicion, the freedom to just be themselves. So the next time you see a golden mask or a towering pyramid, just for a second, remember the real person behind the symbol. Because as we've seen, sometimes the shiniest cages are the heaviest of all.